Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet on the GeForce GTX 1060 3GB. For performance monitoring, this time I won't be using cam due to Easy Anti-Cheat, which is the anti-cheat software this game uses, so in the meantime I'll be using MSI Afterburner. So Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet, I'll be doing 1080p, 1440p and briefly 4K. To skip any of those sections of the video, check the description below. So well, first of all, I'll show you 1080p, and with max settings, I'm already able to maintain 60 frames per second most of the time. Then at 1440p, I had to keep max settings once again, because the game doesn't run that different between the lowest and the highest settings. I'll talk more about that later in the video, but it was enough to maintain over 30 frames per second. And finally at 4K, it was impossible to even be close to 30 frames per second at the lowest settings. So I'll just briefly show you 4K, like a minute and a half of footage. But now I'm going to talk to you about the issues I ran into and the options menu. There seems to be a bug or something like that with the options menu or the graphical options in the game itself that made me re-record this video. That's why it took so long to upload it. So the first time I tried this game, for example on the 1050 Ti, I started with 1080p low settings and I noticed that I was getting pretty much 50 frames per second, something like that, 52. So I said, okay, I'll try the highest settings, let's see how high we can go. So I went back into the menu and I was getting 60 frames per second, which was weird because low settings was running worse. So I just restarted the game, went back into it, and I was getting 45 to 50 frames per second. So there it made more sense, but it was still running very similar to low settings. And what I found out is when I just jump into the game and start playing or something like that, and I go back into the menu to change the settings and then go back into the game once again, because you cannot change the settings by just pausing the game. You have to go all the way back into the main menu. It makes the game just run better. But once I restart the game, it runs worse. So what I did on my videos on this game is to just change the settings, restart the game and record that, since it's the worst case scenario. So hopefully they fix that later in a patch or something like that. But in the meantime, I'll just show you the worst case scenario. If you're not affected by this bug, good on you, have fun. You'll get just better performance compared to this video. Even if you manage to run this game at 60 frames per second, the frame times are very inconsistent. That means that you'll feel very inconsistent controls. It's very hard to aim sometimes. That means that the time a frame stays on screen will be very variable. It will stay between 16 and 18 milliseconds, but it will go up and down very quickly. So it's kind of hard to control. Even by just using VSync, that didn't help. VSync actually made it even worse. And since you're using a lot of mouse control because you're aiming all the time, it feels very inconsistent to play, even at 60 frames per second. I won't be able to talk very in depth about the options menu, but the game is capped at 60 frames per second. You can unlock the frame rate if you want, going into the config file, but I didn't do that because when you change a setting, it just resets back to 60. And one of the issues that I ran into with that as well, after some cinematics, the game just caps itself at 30 frames per second. I had to go back into the menu, select 60, and jump back into the game, which was very annoying. But so far, I'm in occlusion, shadows, depth of field and motion blur seem to be the biggest performance hits, if the game is actually working as intended with the options menu. And I didn't use a better CPU since the G4560 was more than enough to maintain 60 frames per second, as long as your GPU is enough. And you'll notice very different VRAM usages. When I'm just into the hub area, I get like 2 GB of usage on high, but once I go into the wasteland, it drops to 1 GB, which is kind of weird. Half the VRAM usage in a place where you fight, but in the hub area is like double the usage. But yeah guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you keep enjoying the video. Thanks for watching and see you next time.
いいじゃない。素晴らしいです。
アファス、ありがとう。倒した。
すごいのです。
やっ、
すごいすごい。
やっ、
グレネード行くわ。投げるわ。ベリア。すごいすごい。素晴らしいです。
アファス、嬉しいよ。ヘイトを散らしてくれ。
すごいのです。やるわね。
クレハ。ああ、食りつく。
すごいすごい。最高です。
アファス、回復する。
兵士助かるわ。
大活躍だな。
回復3級です。使うわよ。見つけた。よーし。ベリア。すごいダメージですわよ。
入った。
いいじゃない。グレネード行くわ。
お疲れ様。
わーい。
発見。ヘイトを散らしてくれ。
すごいのです。
お疲れ様。
わーい。すごいじゃない。
クレハ、嬉しいよ。発見。
わーい。最高です。
楽勝。発見。はっ、やった。
最高です。到着っと。お疲れ様。
お疲れ様。回復を頼む。
わーい。
負けたのか。
わーい。よーし。今助けるから。応援してます。
オンに切る。アファス、オンに切る。はっ、
最高です。よーし。わーい。
えい、えい、はっ、はっ、
グレネード行くわ。わ
さあ、ネームドエネミーだ。消せるかな。倒した。
ーい。いいじゃない。
ついな。
注意してください。
さあ、
無理しないで。相手にならない。
アファス、オンに切る。やった。
助けてください。
食いつく。まだまだ。アファス、オンに切る。はっ、アファス、やられたか。やった。ヘイトを散らしてくれ。まだまだ。やった。
すごいのです。やるわね。
クレハ、ありがとう。
ヘイトが集まってます。
はっ、
使うわよ。
食りつける。
回復サンキューです。目的地に到着しました。
ヘイトを散らしてくれ。
すごいすごい。すごいのです。
入った。ヘイトを散らしてくれ。食りつける。入った。ヘイトを散らしてくれ。回復を頼む。
マスター回復回避を。
アファスオンに切る。まだまだ。クリア。やられたか。やっかった。ヘイトを散らしてくれ。きついな。到着だ。お疲れ様。発見。手を貸してくれ。終わりだ。
すごいすごい。
エネミーだ。まだまだ。
ネームドエネミーがいます。これで終わり。すごいのです。到着っと。お疲れ様。
食りつける。
最高です。
食りつける。
いいじゃない。嬉しいのです。
食りつける。食りつける。
よーし。てりゃ。当てる。
ヘイトを散らしてくれ。
わーい。到着。お疲れ様。
はっ。